Okay, let's get right into it. You know that feeling, that pull between wanting to conquer your goal? Maybe it's finally learning that language, finishing that project, whatever. And then this other really powerful force that just wants to conserve energy.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
It's like you're driven, but also, maybe deeply comfortable doing very little sometimes. We're all familiar with that internal tug of war, right?
Absolutely. And what's fascinating when you look at this is that it isn't some kind of modern flaw.
Right.
Like the material you shared points out, this tension, this ambition versus rest thing, it's probably rooted deep in our biology.
Really?
Yeah, think about it. For a huge chunk of human history, conserving energy was, key to survival.
Exactly. So for this deep dive, we've got some really interesting angles to explore. You sent over some great stuff, insights from a podcast, Beyond the Mic, and also a script from a YouTube podcast discussion, both tackling this ambition versus laziness challenge head on.
Yeah, it's a common theme.
So our goal today really is to cut through the noise and pull out the most effective, relatable strategies. Help you get maximum results while, respecting that natural pull to conserve energy.
Exactly. Consider it a shortcut.
Yeah, a shortcut to understanding how to get things done without feeling like you're constantly fighting yourself.
Precisely. And understanding this conflict, it isn't about beating yourself up. Not at all.
Okay.
It's more about gaining that self-awareness and then strategically finding ways to work with your tendencies, not constantly trying to just push through them.
All right, so let's get to the heart of it then. What's the core dynamic here, this internal struggle?
Well, one of the podcast hosts put it quite humorously, actually.
Oh, yeah.
They called it a battle between the visionary and the sloth.
Huh? I like that. The visionary and the sloth.
Exactly. You've got those big ideas, the desire to create, to learn, to grow. That's your visionary.
Right.
But then there's that equally strong pull towards ease, comfort, immediate pleasure. That's the sloth chiming in.
Suggesting maybe that project can wait. And Netflix sounds way better right now.
Precisely. Or a nap. A nap always sounds good to the sloth.
Oh, I know that debate well. But you mentioned our evolutionary wiring. How does that fit in?
Well, our brains are incredibly efficient energy managers. Seriously. Historically, wasting energy could be, dangerous for survival.
Okay.
So that drive to conserve energy, which, we might label laziness now, it's not necessarily a fault. It's more like a deeply ingrained survival instinct.
Okay.
The challenge now is that our ambitions, they often require sustained effort. That can feel like it's working directly against this basic wiring.
Okay, that framing is really helpful. It takes some of the guilt away. So how do we start to work with this tendency, not just against it, and actually make progress? The sources mention a lazy productivity framework. What's the thinking there?
Yeah, this is where it gets really practical and interesting. This framework, which is a key idea from one of the podcast excerpts, it offers these ingenious techniques that basically use our inclination towards laziness for productive ends.
Okay, using laziness for good. I like it. What's first?
The first one they called the 2-minute miracle.
The 2-minute miracle. Okay. Sounds almost too simple. What's the secret?
Well, the core idea highlighted by one of the Beyond the Mic hosts is just committing to work on a task for only 2 minutes.
Just 2 minutes?
Just 2 minutes. Like the example was, I'll just study Spanish for 120 seconds.
Okay.
What's so powerful is how often that tiny commitment breaks through the initial resistance, and it often leads to much longer work sessions. It taps into a psychological thing, the Zeigarnik effect. We tend to remember unfinished tasks. So once you start, there's this little mental itch to continue.
That makes total sense. It's like lowering the barrier to entry so much, it's almost silly not to start. Because often isn't the hardest part just getting going, that initial inertia?
Exactly. That first push is usually the biggest hurdle. Once you're moving, momentum helps.
Okay, cool. What else is in this framework?
Another really clever one is temptation bundling.
Temptation bundling. Okay, now that sounds like a productivity strategy I can get behind. Tell me more.
Yeah, the concept is pretty straightforward, but powerful. You link an activity you enjoy, but maybe feel is unproductive.
Like binge watching a show.
Exactly. Like watching your favorite streaming show with a task that moves you towards your goals.
Okay, how?
So, for example, you only allow yourself to watch that show while you're on the exercise bike, or maybe while you're doing your Duolingo lesson.
I see. So the reward is tied directly to the effort.
Precisely. It uses the dopamine hit from the fun activity to kind of reinforce and motivate the task that's maybe less immediately rewarding.
So I only get the guilty pleasure if I'm also doing the should-do thing. That's smart. Harnessing desire for good. What else?
Another key part is energy matching.
Energy matching.
Yeah, this is about consciously aligning the type of task with your natural energy levels through the day.
Okay, like knowing if you're a morning person or night owl.
Exactly. If you're sharpest in the morning, tackle your most demanding creative work then.
Right. Don't try to write your masterpiece at 4 p.m. if that's your slump time.
Precisely. Save the more routine admin type tasks for those lower energy periods. One source specifically mentioned night owls finding their creative flow really late.
That really resonates. I definitely have times when my brain is just not up for heavy lifting. Forcing it is just frustrating.
Totally. And then there's the good enough rule.
Good enough. Ooh, as a bit of a perfectionist, that one makes me slightly nervous. How does that fit with ambition?
Yeah, it can feel counterintuitive, right?
Yeah.
But the idea here is aiming to get something, say, 60% complete and out there, rather than getting stuck striving for an unattainable 100% perfection.
So done is better than perfect, essentially. Yeah. The thinking is that 60% done and released is often way more valuable than 100% perfect that never actually gets finished. You can always iterate later, get feedback, improve it.
That's a tough mental shift sometimes, but I see the wisdom. You can't improve something that doesn't exist yet. Getting stuck on perfectionism is a real killer for momentum.
Exactly. And the last part of this framework we should touch on is strategic laziness.
Strategic laziness. Now that definitely grabs my attention. Tell me about being strategically lazy.
So this isn't about just slacking off. It's about actively looking for and using ways to minimize unnecessary effort. Smart choices.
Like how?
Well, think about using technology for automation tools like Grammarly for writing, or even, as one source mentioned, using AI like ChatGPT for brainstorming initial ideas.
Okay, using tools makes sense.
Yeah, or delegation is possible.
Yeah.
But it also means really looking at your tasks and just eliminating the ones that aren't truly essential. Cut the fluff.
Right. Focus the effort. Exactly. Strategic laziness is about focusing your limited energy on the highest impact things, freeing up resources for what really moves the needle.
So being smart and intentional about where your energy goes. I like that. Okay, shifting gears slightly. You also mentioned mindset hacks. How can we adjust our thinking to help with this?
Yeah, these mental shifts are super important for making this stick long term. The first is reframing laziness.
Okay, how do we reframe it?
Instead of seeing that desire to conserve energy as like a character flaw.
Which is easy to do.
Totally. Instead, try to see it as a form of efficiency. One host had a great example. Think of a Roomba.
The robot vacuum.
Yeah. It's smart laziness, right?
Yeah.
It gets the floor clean with minimal direct effort from you. It finds the most efficient path. So think of your own laziness as a drive for efficiency.
I love that reframe. Takes the sting out of it. It's not bad. It's resourceful.
Yeah.
Okay, what else?
Another powerful one that came up is the 5-second rule.
The Ma Robbins thing.
Okay.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Exactly that. It's a technique to interrupt procrastination by acting immediately on a motivational impulse before that inner sloth talks you out of it.
Right.
You get the urge, you count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you physically move towards the action.
So it bypasses the overthinking. Just immediate action, creating urgency before the impulse fades.
Precisely. And one more mindset hack from the sources. Visualizing your future self.
Ooh, okay. How does that work?
You take a moment and consciously imagine, will my future self be proud or disappointed by what I'm doing or not doing right now? It connects your current choices to your longer-term goals, taps into a deeper motivation.
That adds some weight to daily choices, doesn't it? Thinking about future me definitely hits different than just thinking about immediate comfort. Now, one source made a really key distinction: system versus motivation. Can you unpack that?
Yes, this is critical. Often when we're stuck, we think, oh, I just lacked motivation.
Right. I'm not motivated enough today.
Exactly. But the sources argue that more often it's actually a system problem. Relying only on motivation doesn't work because motivation is fickle, it's an emotion, it comes and goes.
Okay.
But systems, routines, habits, processes, they provide a stable structure, something you can follow even when motivation is low.
So build the tracks so the train can run even when the driver feels a bit sleepy.
That's a great analogy, yeah. Instead of waiting for inspiration, but build structures that guide you anyway.
Makes perfect sense. And this idea of systems leads right into starting small, which came up a lot.
Absolutely. The power of starting with ridiculously small steps just kept coming up.
Like how small?
Like write one paragraph or even one sentence. Do 5 push-ups, study for 5 minutes, just one journal entry.
Wow. Okay.
Really small.
Yeah. The point is they feel so manageable that the psychological barrier to starting just plummets. It reduces that feeling of overwhelm.
And like one host said, small wins build momentum. And momentum is the kryptonite to laziness. That's powerful. It really is. It creates this positive feedback loop. Small step, sense of accomplishment, easier to take the next step, more momentum.
Love that. Okay, building on consistency. Another source, stressed focus over motivation. Explain that.
Right. Motivation is unreliable, we know that, but focus. Focus is presented as a skill, something you can actually train and strengthen.
Okay, so how do you train it?
The advice was schedule dedicated time blocks for your important tasks. And just start, even if you don't feel like it.
Just show up.
Just show up. The idea is that discipline grows stronger each time you choose to act, despite not feeling motivated initially.
So it's like building a muscle. The consistency itself builds the focus muscle.
Yeah, got it. Now, I found the concept of making laziness work really interesting. How does that play out practically?
This is about intentionally rewarding your effort with planned relaxation.
Like the Pomodoro technique, kind of?
Sort of, yeah. Like work focus for 25 minutes and take a 5-minute break to chill, check social media, whatever.
Or decide that after you finish one specific task, you get to watch one funny video or listen to a song you like.
So you're building the reward into the workflow.
Exactly. It trains your brain. Effort leads to a predictable reward. Makes you more willing to do the effort part. It's strategically using those lazy breaks instead of just fighting the urge constantly.
That's a clever way to use our own reward system. Structure the downtime so it doesn't feel like you're just failing. Okay, but ambition needs direction, right? What about planning?
Absolutely. The message was clear. Ambition needs a map.
Otherwise, it's just dreaming.
Pretty much, yeah. Wishful thinking. The recommendation is write down your big goals, then break them down into smaller weekly action steps, and critically track your progress.
Makes sense. You need to know if you're actually moving forward.
Right. It's the desire plus the concrete steps that gets results.
So the lazy part isn't about not having goals. It's about finding efficient, sustainable ways to reach them through planning and strategy. Okay. Now, we mentioned the 2-minute miracle earlier, but the 2-minute rule came up again with a slightly different spin.
Yeah, it was revisited specifically for overcoming that initial, I don't want to start feeling.
Okay.
Same core idea. Commit to just 2 minutes of work on the goal. It lowers that barrier so much, it's almost effortless to just begin. Make it too small to fail, basically.
Make the starting line ridiculously easy to cross. And like you said, once you start...
Often you keep going much longer.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Another interesting tip was the no-brainer schedule. What's that about?
This is about picking a specific time each day for a small, regular task related to your ambition.
Every single day.
Yeah, making it non-negotiable, like brushing your teeth.
Okay.
You schedule it, same time daily, and eventually becomes an ingrained habit. Requires less willpower over time because it's just what you do then.
Automating those small, consistent actions. The brushing teeth analogy is perfect. You don't really think about it. You just do it.
Exactly. And for the really big, scary goals, the advice was consistent. Baby steps.
Break it down.
Break it way down. That huge goal, turn it into tiny, achievable tasks. The example was writing a book by committing to just one paragraph a day.
One paragraph.
Each step feels small, maybe insignificant alone, but cumulatively over time, it builds the book or achieves the goal without overwhelming you.
Makes those giant ambitions feel less terrifying. It's the compound effect of tiny efforts.
Yep.
Okay, but distractions. They're everywhere. How do we manage those?
A key technique mentioned was using focus sprints.
Focus sprints.
Yeah. Work with intense concentration for a set time, maybe 20 minutes, maybe 45. During that sprint, notifications off. No distractions allowed.
Okay, lock it down.
Lock it down. Yeah. Then after the sprint, you take a short, planned break as a reward. Check messages, stretch, whatever.
So it trains focus, but also acknowledges the need for breaks. Practical. And finally, keeping that ambition alive. Any tips on that?
Yeah, 2 main things came up. 1, surround yourself with inspiration.
How so?
Consciously follow people whose work you admire. Listen to motivating podcasts or read inspiring stuff. Let their energy kind of rub off on you.
Right, curate your input.
Exactly. And the other big one, accountability.
Telling someone your goals.
Yep. Share them with friends, family, maybe get an accountability partner. Just knowing someone else knows and might ask you about it can seriously increase your commitment.
Makes you less likely to just quietly let it slide.
Totally. So yeah, it seems like creating this supportive ecosystem mindset, shifts inside, systems and planning, and people outside, that's really the key.
Navigating that ambition laziness paradox effectively.
Absolutely. These sources offer a really practical toolkit, techniques that acknowledge we're human, we like rest, but still provide ways to channel ambition sustainably. Finding that sweet spot.
Yeah, that sweet spot where you make real progress without feeling like you're just grinding yourself down constantly. Okay, let's wrap this up. The really encouraging thing here, I think, is that it's okay. It's possible to be driven and also, strategically lazy, energy conscious, and still get where you want to go.
Definitely.
It's not about forcing constant hustle. It's about being smart, being strategic.
Exactly. And think about it. How many big inventions or easier ways of doing things came about because someone thought, there has to be a less effortful way to do this?
That's a brilliant point. That desire to conserve effort can actually drive innovation.
It absolutely can. It reframes that laziness into a potential source of creativity and efficiency.
Okay, so for you listening, maybe take a second to think about these strategies. Which ones kind of jumped out at you? The 2-minute rule, temptation bundling, maybe just that idea of reframing laziness as efficiency.
Yeah, and this brings up a final, maybe important question for you to chew on. Think about one area right now where you feel that tension the most. Ambition versus wanting to chill. What is the absolute smallest, almost laughably easy step you could take towards that ambition, like in the next 5 minutes?
Ooh, that's a great actionable question. Puts it right back on that start small idea.
Exactly.
It really highlights the power of those tiny, consistent actions. They might feel small now, but they are how you build things, how you turn those big dreams into actual reality.
One strategically chosen, maybe even slightly lazy, step at a time.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Great stuff to think about.